Welcome to Beyond Mortgage. I'm Dan Trinidad, and I'm fired up to talk with Luke Shankula today. Luke has been featured on ABC, NBC, Fox, Yahoo Finance, and is a contributor to National Mortgage News. He's a seven-figure mortgage marketer with a background in the mortgage industry. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Did I get this right? Did I get everything right?
Yeah. I mean, that's at least what my publicist wanted me to say, right? So I don't know. I probably wouldn't have described myself quite so eloquently, but hey, it's cool. That's why I have her in place, right? So.
There you go. You got to paint the picture.
Right.
So Luke, for the benefit of all of our listeners who are predominantly loan originators and realtors, maybe you could share a little bit of your background and how you ended up getting to where you are today and what your focus is today.
Sure. So, I was obviously we were just talking about it off script here, but, one of the things that sort of brought me into the marketing world and what I'm doing today was essentially I worked for, right out of college, I got a job for a mortgage lender doing reverse mortgages. I was doing post-closing. I did pretty much everything in that. I was doing processing intake. I did a broker coordinator. I was an AE for about a year and a half. And then that ship sailed. I got laid off. I tried to start a contract processing business, realized that wasn't for me. I kind of got my license, become a loan officer to essentially generate my own leads. I started running ads on Facebook, Instagram, and, started getting a little bit of success there, started to get some leads, but realized pretty quickly after talking with some of these, consumers that just wasn't for me. But in that process, I fell in love with marketing, and the rest is history. Well, I wouldn't say the rest is history because there was a very long, arduous, like 2.5 years of making zero money, racking up about $100,000 in debt at one point. And so, it hasn't always been a super smooth journey, but the reality is it's what has, crafted me and made me who I am today. Right. Which is
absolutely
used to all that stuff now. I'm not used to it, but, I've gone through that. So I'm a little stronger now than I was, back then. Right.
Well, so 2.5 years of some challenges. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, and most importantly, maybe you could share with our listeners, how you got out of it and kind of what your mindset was going through it and coming out.
Yeah. So in January of 2017, that's when I got laid off. And probably for about the first 6 months, I didn't really know what I was doing. Again, I kind of started that little contract processing thing, closed a couple deals, realized that wasn't for me, got licensed. So went, got my California, took the UST test, or I think I'd already taken the UST before, but got my California license, did my whatever classes, and then realized, that's not really for me. But in the process, I started learning Facebook ads. I kind of came across a couple of different mentors in that space. They were talking about, hey, start an agency, run ads for other people. So I was like, okay, well, cool. Let me do this, right? And they're, of course, selling you the dream that you're going to go live on the beach and, make all this money and
it's easy.
And all that. Yeah, it's easy, right? It's easy. People are just going to want to give you money because what you do is so valuable, right? And so I bought into that. I was totally sold on it. And then obviously that didn't happen. So it was, probably in at the end of that year, probably November of that year, I ended up actually going to getting another job as an account executive because I just had to make ends meet. I still had only made a couple $1,000s,
sure.
Not enough to pay mortgage in Southern California sort of prices. Right. And so I did that, got a job again, got laid off again about 5 months later because reverse mortgage guidelines had literally just changed when I got on board. So like the production pretty much cut in half. Right, or something along those lines. So there wasn't a ton of production to be had, and they were just looking to kind of get rid of, a few people, and I was the last person on board. So like, hey, sorry. So got laid off again in April. I had told my wife that she wasn't going to have to go back to work because she's a teacher that following year. So this was around April of 2018. I still wasn't making any money. Back against the wall. Finally, in July of 2018, I started making a little bit of money, enough to sort of, hey, be a little bit more confident to say that, right? Fast forward a couple months, business is growing, business is booming. I'm kind of getting a little cocky. I'm like, oh man, I'm the best. All of a sudden, have my best month in February of 2019. 6 weeks later, I lost roughly $60,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 6 weeks. and just got completely humbled, right? So I'm over here thinking I'm, the boss and all that. And so that's when I really went back to work. And it's funny because at that point in time, like the expenses and stuff like that were much higher than what my incoming revenue was at the time. And it was scary. I almost threw in the towel. But at that time I doubled down. I actually ended up hiring a mindset coach because I knew that that's what really was what's going to get me to that next level, was to really develop my mindset, to grow as a person, to grow as a business person. And so I invested when I didn't have the funds. And then, fast forward to today, working with about 60 mortgage clients. So, I just had kind of a big growth over the last about 18 months since that sort of I would say the pivotal time in my journey, right?
That's exactly what it is, Luke. It's a journey, man. So, I think the big win through all these challenges, you're swallowing your pride a little bit. You're a little bit scared about the
Oh yeah.
future. It's all of that coming down on you, and it does come to, okay, how am I viewing this? Am I viewing this as just part of the journey and my education, and I'm going to come out of it knowing much more than I did in the previous year and a half? Or am I going to fold up shop and never do this again? And it's awesome to see that you made choices to get after it again. And
Yeah.
your coach obviously inspired you to start building your business. So 60 clients, and then you hit the mortgage industry, and it's probably a good time. So loan officers have a little bit of money to invest, and
Yeah. Yeah.
going to somebody with the skills to help them generate business. So maybe you could share, what are the top 2 or 3 things that, in your opinion, loan officers should be doing in a market like today, and thinking about the next market to come? So I know you're aware that rates are at all-time lows.
Sure.
The purchase market is sizzling hot. Um, loan officers are just so extremely buried right now with opportunity, but with that comes a little bit of overwhelm. So
Sure.
most loan officers are just their heads are down in the loan transaction, as opposed to building a business that's going to be sustainable through um, this good market when it turns a little bit not so good. So maybe
Right.
you could share a couple, 2, 3 best practices that a loan officer can be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, like you mentioned, to note that the the reality is people need to have that long-term vision. So many people, especially loan officers, especially today, are very transactionally minded, and so they're so stuck in what's happening today that they're forgetting about the future. They're forgetting about partnering with real estate agents, the people that are feeding them during the low times, and so they're doing
Yeah.
double, triple, quadruple the amount of refi volume that they normally do. The purchase obviously is crazy business right now too. I mean, I'm hearing in just about every single market, there's a shortfall in inventory. And so, it's always about continuing to build those relationships with your agents and stuff like that. And this coming from someone who generates leads for loan officers, I still a firm believer in the referral business. And that's one of the reasons, or that's one of the ways we kind of help our people, is like, here, go find more referral partners. That's like where your bread and butter. That's where you can get your A paper, 20% down, like your good buyers. Go find your realtors that are going to give you those guys that are really easy, home runs, right? And kind of use leverage getting additional leads to bring in new partners. But that's the first thing, is really just kind of having that vision for the long term. The second thing I would say is being very cognizant and aware of your processes, because ultimately it comes down to, like, if you talk to any top producer, the real difference between them and the person that's closing 2, 3, 4 deals a month is their processes and their systems are dialed in, right? They automate, they delegate, they eliminate, right? So they already know exactly what's happening. Every single time a lead comes in the door, here's exactly what's going to happen. Every time a referral comes in, here's exactly what's going to happen. And that's why some of these guys can have 2 people on their team, have 2 assistants, and close 30, 40 loans a month. And then there's another person that's struggling to close 3 deals a month, saying, I don't have time. But then what are they doing? They're processing their own loans.
Right.
They're chasing their own conditions. They're doing all these things that's not making them money, right? And the reality is, as a salesperson, as a loan officer, which is a sales person, you need to be doing revenue generating activities the majority of your day, right? And it's hard to remember that today because, again, it's just so easy, for most people to go out and get loans right now. And so you're just swimming in loans. But I think really it's starting to think, hey, does that look like hiring someone? Does that look like putting together all of your SOPs, your standard operating procedures on exactly what's going to happen? So as soon as you do bring someone in, you can continue to grow and continue to have that pace. Because the other problem too is loan officers, entrepreneurs, same with me, right? Is we're inherently lazy. And what I mean by lazy is we like to take the path of least resistance. I think that's just humans in general, right? We like to take the path of least resistance. And what that means is it's easier to just do it yourself, right? But when you're closing 20 deals a month right now, because it's so crazy, you don't have time to train someone, or you think you don't. And you think you're also not going to find someone good, but also it's sometimes having that right mindset around, hey, there's going to be someone out there that maybe is not going to be 100% of you, but they might be 90, they might be 80%. But if they can take off 50% of your workload and you can double, triple your business without working more, then that, in my opinion, is a net positive, right?
So how do you find them, when you are in the weeds trying to close your 20 deals a month and you don't have an assistant, and like you just said, because you feel like you can do it, I don't have time to train somebody. Say a little bit more about that. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of clients that are struggling with the same issue.
Yeah, and it really depends, right? And I wouldn't even say that I'm the expert at that, right? I'm a marketer, but at the same time, I do like to kind of be a little bit more than just, hey, I give you leads and that's it, right? Because we do like to see, hey, this is exactly how our best performers are scaling their businesses, because they're bringing in people. And I think the biggest thing is just to have the right. Again, a lot of it comes down to mindset. It's just like calling leads, right? Like you call leads and you get on the phone and you're like, oh, hey, this is Luke, and I'm just calling from Chase Mortgage. Like if you go into a call with that sort of a mindset, with that sort of energy, you're going to not get the results. So the same thing, if you're always thinking like, I'm never going to find someone that's as good as me, I'm never going to do this. It's like, you almost just have to open yourself up to the idea that yes, they're going to suck for 3 months. Yes, it's going to take you more time, but realize that after the 3 months, the 4 months, after you've invested the time into them, you're going to be able to continue to grow your business. And I'm driven a lot by impact as well. It's like, you're going to impact more home buyers, right? If you truly believe that your service, what you offer is above and beyond what other people offer, then you have, in my opinion, an obligation to go out and get more business, because ultimately what you're doing is serving your homeowners, right? You're serving, or not just homeowners, but prospective buyers as well.
Yeah. So when providing leads to a loan originator, I mean, I know you've probably got math around it, but how many leads does a loan officer need what's the average conversion rate, I guess, for the loan officers you work with?
Yeah.
And then I like what you said. It's not even so much that as get these potential home buyers and build your partnerships, your real estate partnerships with them. Like, what are your thoughts around that? What's your advice to loan originators?
So, I mean, obviously right now, so I know you talked about earlier a little bit about having the extra money. The one thing that people don't have right now is the extra time, which is, so there is a little bit of, there's kind of like the conflicting interests is there, right? It's like, hey, they want to invest, but they also realize that like, I don't have the time to invest, because the reality with especially with internet leads and even referrals, right? Any type of lead, you have to put in the work that's required to convert them, right? What I have found over time is that 90% of the results comes down to whoever that end user is, right? So whether that be, if you're brand new, if you've never done internet leads before, and you're expecting to become the best salesperson at internet leads ever, like that's just not reality, right? Like think about it, as a loan officer, you didn't become a good loan officer, 30 days into, picking up the handbook, right? Like it took you years of figuring out, reading all the handbooks, figuring out what FHA versus Fannie Mae versus whatever all these different guidelines were. And so expecting that you go from never talking to an internet lead in your life to being a good salesperson at internet, it's a different ball game, right? And so the people that we see have the best success, they're the people that, come from a call center, they have experience calling leads, all that sort of stuff. And so we provide coaching for the people that don't have that experience. So we have a couple coaches in our group to help with that. But it really depends. Like you mentioned, the conversion rate, our top performers can take 30 to 50% application from our leads. but then some of our bottom performers, might get 100 leads and might get one application, right? And so generally, or none, right? They maybe never picked up the call, they picked up a phone. And so, people are picking up the phone once, they're calling once, they're calling 24, 48 hours after the lead comes in. So there's a lot of different nuances to the conversion process. And a lot of times the other problem is people think that by buying leads, it's going to miraculously build their business. But if you pour a bunch of leads into a broken system, you're just going to get broken results. Right? And so if you don't have a system to convert, and what I mean by convert is not just taking the application, but it's what's the process from getting an application to getting docs back? What does that process look like? What does the process look like from getting docs back to getting them to a real estate agent to get them into contract? Because the real estate agent, maybe you don't have a strong real estate agent that's not well versed with internet leads either. You have to build that trust, get them excited, get them hyped up, get them into contract, all that sort of stuff as well. And then getting them all the way to the end line, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter until you close the deal, right? And so there's so many pieces of the puzzle that people forget, right? They just think it's the lead. If I can just get 100 leads, I'm gonna close extra deals. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, theoretically that's true, but you have to remember that there's a lot more that goes into converting a lead than just, picking up the phone the first time and they're gonna pick up, people just think that they're gonna answer the phone, they're gonna be ready to go, they're gonna buy right away. And the other thing too is long-term vision, right? Sometimes these leads take 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 months to convert.
Yeah, that's what I've found. I found originators often say, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to invest, $3,000 in Facebook leads, and they generate a couple hundred leads, but they don't. They get some conversations going. They might get a few apps that they got to work. The people aren't ready to buy yet, those sorts of things. But what I think loan officers need to be prepared to stay in the game. And I think oftentimes they spend a good amount of money, whether it's $1,000, $500, whatever. They do that month 1, month 2, and they really haven't seen deals close yet. Putting money into month 3, month 4, you've already assessed that, oh, this doesn't work, when I think it's right about to. Like you said, I think over those 2-3 months, you're gaining your experience. You're learning what script of yours works best, what attitude and mindset of yours works best. And some of those people that you talked to 2 months ago are now coming back into the fold. And so I just see people, jumping out of the game a little too quickly.